Welcome into the Inside Scoop. Today is Wednesday, August 7th. I got a special guest with me today, Steve Wiltfong. You guys may recognize him from the Wiltfong Whip Around on this channel. Well, he's going to be hanging out with me today for the intro of this show. So we're going to get to it. It's a big day. We waited to tape this until it was completely official. Saxy Texas 5-star Khaleke Lockett just committed. We're going to react to that in this video. But first, this is usually where I tell you guys to hit subscribe. I'm not going to do that today. I'm not going to tell them to hit subscribe today, Steve. I'm going to tell them that, hey, I got a deal for you. If you want to sign up for On3 right now, I can get that done for $1. That's right. I know you've been watching these videos. It's free. That's great. If you want more, though, now is the time to go to On3 and sign up for $1. Use promo code BERG1 right here. Promo code BERG1 will get you signed up to On3 for just $1. Go take care of that. We're going to get on with the show. Steve, let's talk some Texas recruiting. 5-star wide receiver Khaleke Lockett just announced his commitment to Texas over LSU, over Alabama, A&M, FSU. Those were the finalists for the number 3 ranked wide receiver in America, the number 17 overall prospect. Steve, you were all over this one with Texas as the leader. They were trending. But when did it kind of turn the corner for the Longhorns?
I just know that Texas led for Khaleke Lockett back in May going into the official visits. We spent time with him at the On3 Elite Series in Nashville. And he told me Texas was his leader going into the official visits. He took his trips to Alabama, to Florida State, to Texas A&M, to LSU. But Texas got the last trip the weekend of June 21st. And they got it done. The relationship with Chris Jackson, his pedigree coaching in the NFL, Coach Sarkisian, his offenses, all the receivers that he helped develop and send to the NFL. Those things were factors. But just putting on for his home state, being closer to home, playing for Texas, that burnt orange was also major for Khaleke Lockett as he commits to Texas. Texas going to try and go on a run here in August.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here right now because it has felt like we've been saying this. Texas is going to go on a run really since early June, it feels like. And with De'Corian Moore going to Oregon, that was their shot at their first 5-star. They missed him. That was July 4th. Well, now here we are on August 7th, and they've landed their first 5-star, but probably not their last, because we're talking Michael Fasusi, Michael Terry, Jaime Ffrench, and Jonah Williams. And Steve, they're all deciding this month. At some point this month, Texas could land either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 5-stars. Break it down for us. Let's start with Michael Fasusi, the offensive tackle out of the state of Texas. How do you read his recruitment as it stands right now?
They're in an absolute war for Michael Fasusi. There's people that think that he's ultimately going to end up in Austin, and it certainly wouldn't surprise me if he committed to Texas, Josh. But don't sleep on Texas A&M. There has been a ton of dialogue and meetings with Texas A&M. Oklahoma is another program that he's visited numerous times, has a real good relationship with Coach Bill Beatenbaugh, likes his track record. All 3 of those programs are pouring a lot of resources into Michael Fasusi and his recruitment. So I could still see that one going a few different ways, but Texas is major in that one.
Yeah, I like Texas, but I'm kind of watching Oklahoma there.
Well, don't sleep on the Aggies either, then, Josh.
I'm not. All right, Michael Terry, the number 1 athlete in America. He's also from the state of Texas. This has been a battle as well. Who are the primary teams involved here, and when is Michael Terry deciding?
Well, he wants to decide before his senior year. Will he be able to get that done? Time will tell. But Texas is definitely one of the top programs for Michael Terry. Yep. You also have the Oregon Ducks, and then Nebraska, the Cornhuskers, rounding out what I think the top 3 is. Texas A&M was in that Final Four, but they have faded based on everything I'm hearing. So Texas, proximity to home, not too far from San Antonio. Steve Sarkisian and his offense kind of showed him a way that he could be utilized in multiple ways, whether that's in the backfield as an H-back, as a wide receiver. He's moved around the football field his entire life, so that is exciting to him. He doesn't want to just play one receiver on the next level. And when he took his official visit to Texas, they showed him all the ways that he could impact their offense. And then the other programs had to respond to that on his other official visits. He goes to Oregon. They get DeAnthony Thomas Thomas showing him around. Not once, but twice. He took his official visit. There's the Anthony Thomas. He returned in July. There's the Anthony Thomas again.
It's like his player host.
No question. And look, not a bad player host.
Yeah.
But again, it's Oregon showing similar opportunity. And then Nebraska, he has felt the love from Nebraska, man. When he took his official visit to Lincoln in April, he lands. The local newspaper has a top of the sports section article about Michael Terry and what a priority recruit he is. He's felt that way all the way through, likes the trajectory of Nebraska's program and what Coach Rule and company are building. If you're making me make a best guess now,
sure,
I would pick Texas.
Okay.
But that is not an on 3 RPM guess, so it certainly wouldn't surprise me if he ended up at the others. But Texas doing everything they can to land him, and they've done a good job.
Yeah, all right. So
Tashard Choice has recruited him as long as anybody, so that relationship's also key for Texas.
So we're halfway through the remaining 5 stars that are deciding this month, and you've got 2 of them currently leaning towards Texas. Let's talk now about 5-star wide receiver Jaime Ffrench. He's from Jacksonville, Florida, and he made an interesting final trip. He went to LSU in Miami on that final weekend before the dead period. Now Jaime Ffrench is hunkered down in decision-making mode. How do you read his recruitment as we're like 3 weeks out?
Well, it's been one that you've kind of – it's
ebbed and flowed.
Right, yeah. So, look, there's been times where Texas has led. I need to make some calls to see if they still lead because he took those visits at the end of the summer to LSU and Miami, and there seems to be some confidence really growing around Coral Gables in Miami. Now, if you're watching Whip Around, if you're watching Scoop, if you're listening to Chad Simmons and I, we haven't slept on Miami, but now it just seems like Miami is very much a real one for Jaime Ffrench. LSU has been in there for a while, but Texas led coming into the summer, thought they led coming out of the official visits, but then there were a couple July visits. He's still having dialogue with these schools, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and this is when the real recruiting goes down, when the dead period begins. All right, now let's get to Jonah Williams, the 5th and final 5-star of the month that's going to be deciding on Texas's recruiting board. Jonah Williams is an interesting case because he's the #1 safety in America, and at different times, his recruitment has been a bit of a roller coaster ride as well.
It has, but Texas is a program that up until recently we weren't talking much about. It was a lot more around Oklahoma. Then it was a lot more around Texas A&M. Then you got LSU and Oregon getting some momentum. Texas has real major momentum here at the end. I think that they're one of the top 2 schools that he's looking at right now. I would put LSU in there as well. And Texas has been in this recruitment for a long time. They just weren't prominently mentioned. You know, Coach Gideon, Coach Sarkisian, they've been going into his high school for years down there in Galveston Ball. That's all adding up now. Texas got the last visit of his process. He got to watch him practice. Again, got to spend more time with the staff. And Texas has a lot of resources in this recruitment as well. He was going to play baseball on the next level. He obviously had a connection with those guys when they're at A&M. Now they're at Texas.
Bodes well, I think.
Yeah, so Texas, best guess for Jonah Williams today. And always reserve the right to change my mind based on the next phone call or the next bit of information. Or, look, these guys are working through it too, but it's starting to look pretty good for the Burnt Orange here with Jonah Williams.
So with Khalil Lockett on the commit list, we're looking at those 4 remaining 5 stars for the month. Rank those in most likely to least likely for Texas fans.
Well, it's still, there's a lot of ways that these could go. One time you were like, is Texas going to get all 3 of these 5-star wide receivers?
We thought it looked imminent, but you always said, hey, this could go any direction right now. And sure enough, DeCorian Moore goes to Oregon.
And when
and that was the one that we probably felt best about in the moment.
And when I gave the RPM to Texas at the On 3 Elite Series, there was some like, well, they're going to get DeCorian Moore and Jaime Ffrench, and then Khalil Lockett won't even want to come, whatever. Which he would look. It wouldn't matter if DeCorian Moore and Jaime Ffrench were already in Texas's class. Khalil Lockett would not care. He would still be a Longhorn. He's going to go in there and compete. That's where he wants to play. So I felt good about that pick all the way. These guys, look, man, none of these 4 are guarantees. Fasusi, Terry, Ffrench, Jonah Williams are not guarantees, but you're asking me to rank them in order, so I'll do my best.
All right, let's try it.
I think they have the best chance of Jonah Williams from that group. Then I would put Terry 2nd, Fasusi 3rd, and Ffrench 4th.
Wow,
and
that's not what I thought you would say.
No, I know, because, if I could maybe go Michael Terry 1,
Really?
Jonah Williams 2.
Okay, I thought you were going to have Fasusi 1.
No, I think Fasusi is still the one that is like getting in order right now. Okay. I mean, like,
well, this was a good exercise. Now I got a better understanding of it all.
Fasusi is as coveted a player in the country that's not a quarterback.
Okay.
So, like, you got to be ready to recruit Michael Fasusi. These programs are. I'm just saying, like, you know, like let's Fasusi is dotting I's and crossing T's right now. But that one, again, he could go to Texas, and I know there's some optimism, but like the folks in College Station, the folks in Norman are battling for Michael Fasusi as well. He took that last visit to Florida. I mean, so. Yeah,
but when he left Florida, he said, I'm going to keep an eye on them during the season. That doesn't bode well for them in the upcoming decision. Yeah, if Florida goes out and has a great year.
No, I understand that. But what I'm saying is this is a young man that's still going through his process.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And
his decision's coming up soon.
No, it is. And I'm telling you, I can't rank him one on this list. I think that I would, obviously I did. Williams and Terry. Yeah. I like, that doesn't mean that Fasusi's not going to Texas and those guys don't end up elsewhere either. So
this was fun. This was fun. Texas fans, tap in, comment section below. Do you guys agree?
Like button, baby.
Do you guys agree with Steve? Do you disagree with Steve? How many 5 stars will Texas land? Let us know. All right, let's run down the top uncommitted recruits in the country. I got On3 national analyst Steve Wiltfong here with me. And in this video, I want to get Steve's expert opinion on where some of these top prospects could end up. Steve, let's start at the top. #1 offensive tackle in America, David Sanders. There's been a ton of buzz around him. He has his decision date set for August 17. What are you hearing?
Well, he could end up at 3 schools, Tennessee, Ohio State, Nebraska. I know a lot of the buzz has been around the Vols. He's been at every major recruiting weekend at Tennessee this calendar year. He's been there 5 times. He's been to games there in the past. Tennessee's poured a lot into the recruitment of David Sanders, but he's been to Ohio State several times this year, continues to have regular dialogue with the Buckeyes, made a return visit to Nebraska here at the end of the summer so he could get around the players more. They weren't there on his official visit, Mother's Day weekend, where they got to spend some time with the staff. I think all 3 of these programs are doing what they have to do to check as many boxes as they possibly can that the Sanders family is looking for as David goes to make this college decision. And I think we're now in the home stretch. He's going to commit on the 17th, next Saturday. But to my knowledge, no final decision has been made. No school has been alerted. They're still having dialogue with all 3 of them, and these programs are going to get a chance to make a final pitch. So, look, he made these visits to Nebraska where he got one Nebraska staffer said, "I've never seen a reception like this." And these guys have worked at a lot of places, right. So it's not like I haven't seen something like this at Nebraska. He hasn't seen anything like it anywhere. When David Sanders arrived in Lincoln with Dylan Raiola bringing him in and the fan,
it was incredible.
It was awesome. So look, so you're feeling that, right? Then it wasn't easy to get to Knoxville that weekend. I don't know if it was because of the cyber, whatever, but it was not smooth travels. But he could have just went home, back to Charlotte, but nope.
There's something he
got to
get
to Tennessee. So
we got to beat George McIntyre. He wasn't going to stand up George.
Well, they're buds, yeah. So he gets to Tennessee, has a good time there again, as always. So you got those visit highs. Those have worn off again. Back to decision making. Back to like, what are the important things we're making our decision on? These schools are all going to get opportunity to continue to make their final pitches of why we check more boxes than the other programs for you. So come here, and I think that they're all alive.
Okay, but before you had a week off. You're back from vacation, so. Prior to August 1, before you went on vacation, you were giving the edge to Ohio State. At this point, would you still give the edge to Ohio State? Are they even?
No. How do you see it? So I think when I'm talking to all my sources and adding up the intel, my best guess today would be Tennessee. But I've also at times had my best guess on Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then even early in the process, you looked at Georgia. Clemson. And I never had Clemson in the 1 hole.
Okay. A lot of people did. A lot of people said this is going to be the team that's going to be here till the end. They didn't even make his top 4.
Correct. So, I think, I'm not, who knows? We'll see. Maybe we're sleeping on Georgia, but
doesn't feel like it.
But my best guess today would be Tennessee. But again, they're working through it, man, and it's genuine interest in these programs. They have a lot to offer, and so we'll see what happens.
All right. Elijah Griffin, he's next up on the list. He's the #1 defensive lineman in America. we've been hearing that he's trending to Georgia for so long, but when could Elijah Griffin make a final decision?
Well, I think he's going to go to Georgia, so we'll see what happens.
Is it going to be before summer
It's
ends?
Georgia's to lose. I don't think so on that. I think he's going to take his process into the season, but I still like where Georgia stands.
All right. Now, one prospect we know is going to take his process into the season is defensive lineman Justice Terry. He told Chad Simmons that just a few days ago. December 4th is going to be the date. Are the Dogs the team to beat heading into the fall?
Absolutely. They were the team to beat the day he committed to USC on his visit in the spring. We've seen that. We've seen that before with Michael Williams and look, I mean, USC, they came in and battled, and they're trying to restore glory, and they're recruiting the right guys. But Elijah Griffin, Justice Terry, players like that are the reason why Georgia, year in and year out, is competing for national championships. Kirby Smart loves his big people at the point of attack on both sides of the ball, and he loves his defensive backs. And Georgia's track record of top targets on the O-line, the D-line, and in the secondary is as good as it gets since the Kirby Smart era has started in Athens. So I think they'll land Elijah Griffin and Justice Terry, and those are guys that will continue the tradition of dominant play at the point of attack for the Bulldogs.
And that's why we have Georgia in the hunt for the #1 class in America, because they're sitting at number 4, but they're the favorite for both of these 5 stars who might not be coming off the board for another 3 or 4 months. So Georgia fans, you just got to be patient.
Georgia's a program that they're going to go out. They're probably going to have a great year, and they'll flip someone like a KJ Bolden too late. I mean,
they have that ability.
There's no question. There's a guy out there that's in the top 100 right now that's committed elsewhere that Georgia's going to like their senior film, and they're going to go all in, and they're going to spatula them up.
All right. Jonah Williams, the #1 safety in America, he told us in Nashville at the On3 Elite Series that this is a baseball and a football decision. So who's winning this baseball-football battle right now?
Well, I think that Texas and LSU are the programs that I think are in the best shape right now. So my On3 RPM's on Texas A&M because I just don't know what to do with it. And at On3, we can't just delete those picks.
Right,
so,
you got to put it somewhere if you're moving.
Right, so if he committed tomorrow, I'd be wrong on the stat sheet. But, I like where Texas stands. They got the last visit. I think LSU's enticing. I think Texas A&M, they need to rally from where they stand right now, and they could, again. And then Oregon's kind of been they've been a mainstay in that one. There was some hotness around their name and Jonah Williams in the summer. I'm not feeling that right now. Doesn't mean that again they couldn't surge either. Texas and LSU are the programs I think are in the best shape for Jonah Williams right now.
All right, then we got Michael Fasusi.
Absolute war.
It is a battle, and who are the main players?
I'm looking at 3 schools: Texas A&M, and Oklahoma. I think all 3 programs are pouring a lot into recruiting Michael Fasusi, talking to him a lot, showing him why their program is the best fit for him to develop as an NFL player. And I think he's continuing to have regular dialogue with these programs. And you talk to people around Austin, they feel good about it, but the same could be said in Norman and College Station as well. So I'm fascinated. I'm excited to see what Michael Fasusi does because he is one of the most coveted players in the country, regardless of position. Yeah. After quarterback, I would say if schools could draft some players, he would go in the top 5. He's not ranked in the top 5, but he would go in college programs top 5.
Yeah, I believe you. All right, another battle that is brewing, a different battle, but a battle in its own right, is for offensive tackle Andrew Babalola. You got Stanford, you got Michigan, and you have Auburn. Are those the main players here?
Well, you got Oklahoma's
in it as well,
and they're like, hey, Walter Roush transferred from Stanford to Oklahoma. Why don't you talk to him about
making a late pitch here?
Right. So in Missouri, they're still battling for Andrew Babalola. We don't sleep on Missouri in the new age of recruiting.
Are highly valued at this point.
And look, Mizzou went down in the Lone Star State and got Lamont Rogers, who could have went anywhere in the country he wanted as well. So Mizzou, we're not sleeping on them for anybody. I think every time we talk about Andrew Babalola, and we've been talking about him a bit, I've been here since April 1, and we're talking about him more now. Michigan seems to get a little bit more. We get a little more juiced up about Michigan each episode.
It feels that way, yeah.
So I think Michigan and Stanford are the 2 that I think he ends up at one of those 2. But anytime you talk to a source around the Plains or around Norman or around Mizzou, they're like, hey, we're still in here. We're still battling, and so he's still talking. The thing that's changed, Josh, is it used to be when you talk to a source, it would be that school and Stanford.
Right.
Now some people are saying it's that school and Michigan. So he's trying to commit before August 12th. That's when he starts school. He hasn't committed yet, and he's not someone that – look, if he knew where he was going, he would just commit. I mean, this is the guy –
So he's going through it right now.
He's the guy that when you look at the 5 stars, he was probably the last one to talk NIL. Like he's an old school recruitment that's just trying to do the best he can to find his best fit on and off the field. And, you know, his mom's going on the visits, and, you know, his dad is just talking it over with his family. They're struggling to get it down to 1. He likes all these opportunities. My RPM's on Stanford, but I think he could very much go to Michigan, and maybe my RPM will be on Michigan soon, you know. And then maybe that'll be wrong, and he goes to Auburn. And right now I'm not close to like predicting Auburn, Oklahoma, or Mizzou for him. But they're in there. He's still having dialogue with them. Michigan's the one that Michigan and Stanford are the 2.
All right. Another prospect that you can tell is having a tough time figuring out which is the best fit is Michael Terry III. He took all his official visits and then needed 3 more visits the last weekend before he was ready to shut it down into the dead period. He hit Oregon, Nebraska, and Texas. Michael Terry III, how do you read this recruitment?
People love spending time with Michael Terry and his family. They're just
He's
great.
A good guy.
They are, man. The great people, very appreciative of everything that everybody does for them. You know, there's no entitlement with Michael Terry and his family. So when they come to the On3 Elite Series, they're thanking everybody for everything. And when they go on these official visits, same thing. So people love having Michael Terry and the family around. Texas, I mean, that's probably my best guess, but Oregon and Nebraska are right in the middle of that one, and he's trying to commit before senior season, so we'll see.
All right, the last 5-star prospect we're going to talk about in this segment is interior offensive lineman Josh Petty, who some are recruiting as an offensive tackle, some as a guard. He can play center. He can do it all. That's why he's a 5-star prospect, and this one had been trending for Florida State for some time, but now as we get he's deciding on August 12th, as we get closer and closer to his decision, it seems like FSU's fading.
Well, they got the last visit. His sister still goes to school in Tallahassee. Mom likes Florida State.
All that
he likes
sounds
Florida
good,
State. Coach
but...
Atkins. Yeah, Ohio State is really making a late hard push, showing him that he's as coveted as just about anybody on the board, and they'd love to have him in their balanced offense. And then Georgia Tech, man, they've had some big recruiting wins under Brent Key and company. That's a program that's got some excitement around them right now, good coaching staff. And there's some buzz around Georgia Tech for Josh Petty as well.
All right. Well, Steve, it's been great having you here on the set of the Inside Scoop. We got to do this again soon.
Absolutely. Let's do it in Indianapolis, though. Let's get you up into my home studio.
I don't know about a road game.
I
like playing here at home.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's good to be here. You guys hit like and subscribe so you get the scoop, you get the whip around, you get the 5-star flex, and everything in between.
That's right. All right, we are going to continue on. We're going to talk a little Georgia and LSU. Let's get to it. Let's talk Georgia recruiting. The Dogs currently have the number 4 ranked class in America, but they are not done. Can UGA finish number 1 before it's all said and done? I got Chad Simmons on this video, and we're going to talk about a few of the Dogs' most important remaining targets and also some flips on the horizon potentially. So before we get into it, though, UGA fans, jump on board, hit subscribe to the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, and we love talking UGA recruiting, so jump on board, hit subscribe for me, please. All right. Let's bring on Chad Simmons. Now, Chad, we are going to start with potentially Georgia's next commitment. Cornerback Jonte Gilbert out of Atlanta. He's going to make his decision on August 10th, my birthday. And Georgia's trending. Who else is in this one? And do you like the Dogs?
Well, happy early birthday first, Josh. Mine's August 29th. We're August brothers there, I guess, in birthday months. But no, I do like where Georgia sits right now, Josh. I mean, I think this has been pretty fluid the last 4 or 5 months. You know, I go back to the spring, and I'm looking at South Carolina as the favorite. You know, Clemson was in the mix very much late in the spring, early summer. He canceled that OV to Clemson, and then in step Georgia. They got him on campus late in May for a one-day camp, worked him out, did really well. Brought him back for an OV in June, and he went back late in July and worked out again with the staff some more. And Georgia's been very consistent since that late workout in May, and it's become a race between really NC State, That staff, Tony Gibson, defensive staff, done a great job in Raleigh, making them a competitor. And then Georgia, obviously the local school in its backyard, and Atlanta Douglas talent. But I like where Georgia sits here, just days away.
All right, now let's talk about 6'7", 360-pound offensive lineman Nick Brooks. That's just what UGA likes to recruit on the offensive line. Now he's going to make a decision soon, and it's coming down to Georgia, Texas, and USC. When does he decide, and who you got?
Yeah, I think he decides somewhere likely in between your birthday and my birthday, Josh, at some point late in August. That's kind of the plan. Probably right now in that August 20 to 30 range is probably the plan. He's just getting settled back in. He made the move back to Georgia to finish out his high school career, played down here for a couple years, but moved up to Iowa, a one-time Iowa commit, and played his junior season. Now moved back to Georgia this past weekend. Will play at Grayson High School his senior season. But right now it's a three-team race. He's down to Georgia, Texas, and USC. Had extremely good, successful OVs there to those three schools over the summer. And even though he's back in the state of Georgia for his senior year, right now the buzz is shifting, kind of him leaving the state again to play college football. But you can never rule out Georgia. He loves Coach Searles, that staff. He's been there numerous times. He knows numerous commits, players on that team. So Georgia's still very much in the mix. I lean slightly towards Texas right now over USC, with Georgia rounding out the top three.
Monster offensive lineman. We'll see where Nick Brooks ends up. All right, let's talk Justice Terry. There was a lot of speculation about when he would decide, but then, Chad, you had a story earlier this week where Justice Terry tells you exactly when he's going to decide. It's going to be December 4th. So we have a ways to go in this recruitment. Who are the main teams heading into the fall for Justice Terry? Inside Scoop listeners and at-home chefs, listen up. Fall is right around the corner, and HelloFresh can take the stress out of dinner by delivering everything you need to cook up tasty meals right to your door, saving you tons of time. Everyone wants to cut back on errands, right? I hate going to the grocery store. Spending those times in checkout lines this time of year, it's terrible. HelloFresh ingredients, though, they travel from the farm to your door, so everything is fresh and it arrives pre-portioned just for you. Me and my fiance last night, we made HelloFresh. She made the order. I cooked it. It was delicious, of course. And it only took us about 30 minutes and we didn't have to do all that grocery shopping. It was great. You guys got to get on this wave. So here's what we're going to do. Go to HelloFresh.com/Josh Newberg free and use code Josh Newberg free for free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
You know, I think Justice will continue to listen to anyone who really wants to put the effort in to recruit him. But I think it's a three-team battle between Alabama, Florida State, and then Georgia. You know, he's taken OVs to all three schools. He's visited Georgia, double-digit times, somewhere around that same amount to Florida State. Been going to Tallahassee since his freshman year. Went to Alabama for an official visit late in June. He was back in Athens at Georgia in July. He'll be in Mercedes-Benz Stadium to see Georgia host or play against Clemson in a neutral site game at the end of this month. I think he'll take a game in at Florida State, Georgia, and Alabama in the fall, and just really, like he said, focus on his senior season. His team made the state championship game last year, fell short in that Week 15 game. He wants to take it one step further and go out as a champion this season. But I still like where Georgia sits in this race. A one-time Georgia commit, then flipped to USC, backed off that pledge, midsummer. And Georgia's really been trending as the favorite since. I think they'll be hard to beat. Bama will give it their best shot. Florida State will be the same. We'll see if anybody like Ohio State or another school decides to jump in and compete in this race. But right now, Georgia continues to set the pace for Justice Terry.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say they are the team to beat as we head into the fall. Let's talk a couple flip targets. I teased it at the top. Here we are. We got two of them. Wide receiver CJ Wiley. He committed to FSU. He's from Milton, Georgia, and he committed late in June to FSU over LSU in Georgia. But, Chad, you've been hearing that there's some smoke. CJ Wiley and that Georgia staff are still in contact.
Yeah, I think he's been one of the biggest, probably surprise commits this cycle. I don't think nobody ruled out Florida State back when he committed. That was the last OV he took, and they were always in the mix, but everybody thought he's an LSU legacy. Either it's LSU or stay home and go to Georgia. So big win there, obviously, for Florida State with Norvell, Ron Dugans, those guys doing a great job. Now they have to work to keep him in this class when signing day rolls around on December 4th. And Georgia and LSU, but specifically Georgia for this interview, will be in the mix. And I think they'll stay in the mix until the end. He has pretty much communication almost daily with James Coley and that Georgia receivers coach. And he plans to be back in Athens at some point, maybe multiple times for games in the fall. He'll continue to watch the offense evolve and how they use receivers, who plays early this season in the fall as a freshman at Georgia. All those things are things he wants to see at Georgia this year. He says himself his recruitment is still open, yet he feels good about Florida State. So FSU, obviously, the team others like Georgia are chasing, but Georgia is not going away.
All right, we're also talking edge Chase Linton. This one's also interesting. He's from Atlanta, Georgia, but committed to Rutgers on June 2nd. He goes 6'4", 215 pounds, and Chase Linton is now in the sights of the Georgia Bulldogs. What are the chances that they could flip him?
Yeah, it's like I could hit repeat right here, Josh. It goes back to almost like Jonte Gilbert.
Yeah, it does sound like
same way. I mean, he camped at Georgia late in May, did a great job. He opened some eyes being 6'4", 215. I think he tested around 4.640 times, showing athleticism. Obviously a smart kid in North Atlanta High School. He was back in Athens again, like Jonte Gilbert, late in July. Got some work again with the Georgia staff, and Coach Uribe's leading the way there as an edge guy. They see some versatility, some athleticism, some length. And one thing that's become pretty clear about this class in 2025 for Georgia and Kirby Smart is they want to keep a lot of kids home in state. They're really building this class around in-state talent. We talked about Jonte being a guy, Justice Terry, C.J. Wiley. They have over a dozen commits from the home state this cycle as well. And Chase Linton has emerged as a new one. Georgia's working to flip from Rutgers. In between those trips to Georgia, he committed to Rutgers early in June, and Rutgers has a lot of work to do, I'm hearing, to keep him in this class. To me, it's just a matter of time. I like where Georgia sits here to flip Chase Linton. He wants to be respectful and continue to talk to that staff at Rutgers, but Georgia's in a great position here to flip another in-state target.
All right, Georgia fans, talk to us. How do we feel about these flips? C.J. Wiley, Chase Linton, comment section below. Can Georgia get it done? And also, when this is all said and done, is this going to be a #1 class? Let us know, Georgia fans, comment section below. Let's talk LSU recruiting. The Tigers, they've had an incredible offseason, currently sitting at number 3 overall in the On3 industry rankings, but LSU wants more, and of course they do. There's some important decisions going down this month. In this video, I got Shea Dixon from the Bengal Tiger to get his expert opinion on who could be the next LSU commitment. But before we get going, guys, make sure you guys are subscribed and locked in to the #1 recruiting channel on all of YouTube, the On3 Recruits channel. Go ahead, hit subscribe. All right, let's bring on Shea Dixon. Shea, this Thursday, August 8th, Lipscomb Academy safety CJ Jim Coyley is set to decide. But there's some competition here. It's Bama, LSU, Stanford, and Tennessee. How do you feel about Jim Coyley and his decision? Do you think this could be LSU's next commitment?
I think there's a good chance at it, and we may be talking here in a minute about maybe the only prospect who could beat him within that 48-hour time stretch. But yes, I think that all signs point to LSU here, and for a couple of reasons, Josh. Look, I've talked to CJ Jim Coyley a number of times. I can tell you his interest in LSU is sincere, and vice versa. LSU has been after CJ Jim Coyley this entire offseason. Remember, Brian Kelly cleaned house on defense, brought in a whole new staff. This staff has really prioritized the Nashville product in a big way. But throw in there this: not only do they need to rebuild this DBU image and are trying to reel in, top guys at corner and safety, and they've done so with DJ Pickett. They have a safety committed in Jace Thomas, a 4-star in Louisiana. Adding a guy like Jim Coyley only continues to kind of move things in the right direction. But his dad's from New Orleans. His grandma and them still live in New Orleans. Frank Wilson, obviously an ace recruiter for LSU. even more so in New Orleans, was on staff at OP Walker whenever CJ Jim Coyley's dad was in school there. So there's a lot of connections there. Family being down here, I think, is big for LSU. And he told me there was a stretch where it was LSU Stanford. So this is kind of a battle of academics and versus kind of the combination of that with football in the SEC. And he said the big thing for him was his mom seeing at LSU that the balance between academics and football would be enough for him. I think that everything there went well on the official visit. So yes, going into the decision, I'm on board with Chad Simmons, who put in the first on 3 RPM pick in favor of any school, and that was LSU.
Yeah. All right. Well, the prospect that could beat him to the commit list, we're talking wide receiver Philip Wright III. This has been an interesting recruitment because he's from Louisiana, but he committed to Michigan in July. Then he attends Bayou Splash at the end of July. We hear some rumors. He decommits from Michigan on August 4th, and now he's trending to LSU. Shay, do you know what the timeline is on Philip Wright III and when he would like to have another decision?
Look, he's kept things pretty close to the vest here, Josh, in terms of when he could reveal something next. But as you noted, it's been a wild stretch. He committed to Michigan less than a month ago, and he had an LSU offer. Now, granted, Michigan had really been pressing him to be kind of a top wideout for him. Jacob Washington, one of his buddies, another New Orleans receiver, was committed to Michigan already. So they were able to get his commitment then. But LSU was only turning up the heat more after the month of June went by. He came in for camp, met with the coaches, and as you said, came back for the Bayou Splash. He went to Michigan for their recruiting event the following day, but 1 week later says, I'm reopening my recruitment. Now, Georgia and others are in it here, but look, LSU, a New Orleans area kid, and to take it even a step further, a Destrehan kid. We just talked about Jace Thomas being committed at safety. He's from Destrehan. When you think of Justin Jefferson and Jordan Jefferson, his brother at quarterback, all Destrehan guys. John Emery, Destrehan. A guy they signed last year, Kalaj Cobbins, Destrehan. So that's a program that has pipelined guys into LSU. So that's why you've seen this wave of on 3 RPM picks come in favor of LSU. Now it's when does he shut things down? I will say this. Most of these rising seniors at the school are shutting things down before their senior year starts. Destrehan's a school that's been to back-to-back state titles. So I would think that at any point now, Philip Wright could shut things down again.
All right, so we'll see who beats who to the commit list. All right, we can't talk wide receiver recruiting without mentioning Jaime Ffrench. He's the 5-star wide receiver out of Jacksonville, Florida, and he's set to decide at the end of the month. LSU got one of his final visits along with Miami that weekend. Do you like where the Tigers stand?
You know, I think they're in this one. And look, we've talked about Philip Wright being a kid who could pop it any day. They've got Teron Francis, the #1 receiver in Louisiana, committed. They pulled a big surprise, right, with Derek Meadows, a guy a lot of people thought was going to Notre Dame for a long time. Mm-hmm. If you get a guy like Philip Wright on board, Josh, that's 3 receivers. And I think that they're shooting for 4. And right now, I don't think anyone makes more sense than Jaime Ffrench. His mom grew up here in the Baton Rouge area. She went to Southern for college here in Baton Rouge and has a lot of family here still. And she told me that it's only 3 of them, including her and Jamie, that moved to Jacksonville. So yes, there are connections. I also think that a lot of these other teams that have been in the mix kind of can all make a case for being that team that could end up winning out here, whether it be in Miami. We've seen Texas make big runs at different points, but LSU's always hung around here. I'm not ready to say they're the team out front, but I do think they're going to be in it here down the stretch. I don't know which direction it's going to go. I don't have an on 3 RPM pick in, but if I'm an LSU fan, I'm hoping that they get Philip Wright on board because then you can swing for the fences. And if you miss on a guy like Ffrench, it's not the end of the world. You've recruited him well, but you've already got 3 commitments. That's a really solid place to be going into everyone's senior year. So it'll be one to monitor. Look, August 30th is his mom's birthday. So could it be a homecoming of sorts for her?
Yeah, we will see. LSU fans, the class is sitting at number 3 in the country right now, but there's still a little bit to go. Let us know, comment section below, final touches. Who do you want to put on this LSU commit list before it's all said and done? Let us know, comment section below. Shay Dixon from the Bengal Tiger, thank you for dropping by the Inside Scoop today.
Anytime, Josh.
Well, you've made it to the end of today's video, but there's hundreds more videos on the On3 Recruits channel for you to check out. And also, while you're here, hit subscribe.